Excuse me, can I just say one thing? Yeah, this is a very poor turnout tonight. Do you know why? It wasn't in the paper. I looked for the past 2 or 3 weeks. How come Mr. Paul Brook, your mayor, that this meeting wasn't announced in the newspaper? I mean, there's a lot of people in Melrose. There's so few of us here.
Well, it's actually for a public meeting, it's a pretty good turnout. I'm very impressed and grateful for people here. It's been publicized for several weeks.
We can't hear you, Paul.
Let me use this. Oh, jeez. We do our best to publicize it through every medium we can, meaning social media, newspaper. I guess those are the two big ones. We did not do a Everbridge call, but we try to reserve those for things like weather emergencies and things like that. But we did our best over a period of weeks to let people know that this is out there.
You call us once a week with a problem. Why didn't you call and say there was a meeting tonight?
We push it out everywhere. We don't control what folks put in the newspaper. I can check and see if it went out to the newspaper. I know there was nothing in the newspaper.
I know you don't control it, but you can call them up and say that we're having a meeting because you put it in
We
the paper.
routinely do that. They run most of our stuff. Well said.
And it's going to get really tense in here. We're yelling at each other, and I don't want to be hurt. So I'm here as someone that doesn't have a problem yet, but neighbors have it, and they're not here, and I'm trying to go back and do my part and help all of you. But we have to be at this together.
Well said. So let me say one more thing before we get. So let me tell you where we're at a little bit more globally, because some of the stuff that Yankee mentioned is stuff that is going on. Melrose is part of a 6-member public health cooperative. Is that the right way to say it? And Cora will correct me, or our health director, Elaine Sylvia, will correct me if I say anything wrong. But this is a problem that is occurring throughout the Commonwealth. It seems certainly throughout our area of Greater Boston. And so the 6 communities are working together to find solutions. Because again, it is in some respects a regional problem. I'm not saying we have responsibility for it, as do our neighboring communities. And so we are partnering on taking a look at what kind of ordinance changes, bylaws in towns can most effectively make progress on the problem. What kinds of communication, quite frankly, across communities will help us to make a difference in the problem? Because as we are talking about, it is a multi-layered solution. I'll give you an example with trash collection and what would be the best way to deal with that in terms of receptacles and things such as that. Y'all probably don't remember, but the council right before I was mayor, had a significant debate about what's the best way to approach that. And it became a very challenging debate because some folks want metal barrels, because metal barrels are the best solution as long as they hold their shape. I have the kind of big bad wheeled covered things. Squirrels ate through the roof, not of the recycling, but of the trash piece. Not in such a way, not huge, but as we heard, huge in the case of rodent control isn't this big, it's this big. And we also face the fact that this is I think some people have a hard time with this. Not everyone can manage those big, huge trash barrels. So we need to think of a way to make sure that for seniors or folks that might not have, quite frankly, the physical ability to work with those, store them properly, that's another thing. Believe me, we think about it a lot, and I really am hopeful that the work that has been done with this coalition will move us forward and will lead to some suggestions or proposals that get at the whole problem, or as much as the problem as we can, both as a community and as a region. I hope that's helpful.
I just want to add one thing about that. So the coalition is just getting started. This is our first meeting. We have 6 other communities that we're going to meet with, doing the same thing, okay? So that way all of our boundaries, anybody in surrounding communities, we're all going to try to figure this out together, okay? We just hired the new coordinator. She starts September 6th, actually the 7th, and she's going to take over the rest of the meetings. All of these communities, we're going to get all the footwork done and only have to do it once, okay? So that our trash ordinance is going to be the same as maybe Medford's and Malden's and Stoneham's, so that not only is the person right on the line in Melrose and Malden have an issue because Malden's not doing it either. So as many people that are involved in the coalition, there's probably 8 towns, but there's only 6 that are going to be involved in this part of this grant. That's what we're doing. That's our first job. So our first job, above all, anything that we could do in any of these communities is to try and eradicate the rat problem and try to educate and move forward. That's our first goal, okay? And I know you're frustrated, and I don't want this meeting to come off as we're making you the problem, because I know he said we are the problem, but I am here to help you. I am here to try and figure things out. Some things take longer than others. Some neighborhoods take longer than others. There's a neighborhood where there's an elderly woman who loves to feed the birds, and we had to force her by court not to feed the birds anymore, okay? That takes a long time. That's a year of feeding the birds before somebody told her you can't anymore. So things just don't happen overnight, and I have no problem having phone calls. If your neighbor's having a problem, we'll send out information to start. I can't just sneak in their backyard and check out to see if they've got rats, but I can check out their yard from your yard, okay? Or your neighbor's yard. So there's other ways that we can get around this and try to help all the neighborhoods out. Somebody over here raised their hand first. Go ahead.
Yeah, so on the rat map that you put together,
Yeah.
You didn't have anywhere on Cedar Park marked off because you haven't been notified. So I printed out all the emails.
Okay, when was the last time you called?
For the last 8 years.
Huh?
For the last 8 years, beginning on November 11th of 2013, when I said the residents of Cypress Park continue to have these rats in our yard. They're disgusting and filthy. There
Okay.
are 2 dead in my yard.
What is the
and
recent?
3
What is the recent email that you have sent
The
to me?
most recent, I did all the 2017, 2018, and you
Okay.
stopped replying. So
Okay.
I live right up on Oakland Street. I've been talking to you since maybe May or June.
nothing's on that map.
On
Cedar Park is-
So the map, if you look, it's 2021, and I went back a year. So before you leave, meet with me, and we will discuss Cedar Park again.
All right.
What street was yours?
I live on Oakland Street. I have tons of pictures, emails.
I'm sorry, what street?
Oakland Street.
Oakland
It's
is
Right
nice.
across, right across. I have pictures, emails.
Oakland is,
Directly across from Cypress Park.
okay, thank you.
Told you about the person on Vince Street with the trash in the driveway.
Okay. All right, let's talk about that,
I mean,
okay?
what is any?
Folks, we really need it to be one at a time, or we're not going to be able to do very much.
So, as of right now, like I said, the coalition, we are going to try and put trash orders into place.
But if we don't put stop it now, once the weather gets a little colder, they like to borrow
Right,
underground more.
that's
And
correct.
they start going.
That's correct. And we are going to try, that's why I said the rat issue is our first priority. That is the first thing that we're heading towards. And we've already started collecting all the ordinances from all the other towns. And we're going to meet with the coordinator at the beginning of September. and we're gonna try and get everybody on the same page with trash ordinances. And like I said, we have to be a little careful, again, because the ordinance has to say whether we do covered trash barrels, whether we do trash barrels that are in good condition. However, we have to figure that out so that everybody in the town can follow the same guidelines.
You mentioned, when the projector was going on, the two areas behind City Hall.
Yeah.
And behind, up at the Melrose Common.
Yes,
And now you live in Cypress, I live in Oakland Street, that area,
Yes.
it's all because of the farmer's market, it has to be.
It's not.
The rodents are everywhere they've
it's,
been.
it's not because of the farmer's market, it's because of the railroad.
All right, so
We found some
when
spots.
the farmer's market was behind City Hall, you moved it up to the Melrose.
No, we didn't move it up,
Then
we,
when it got infested up there, you moved it to
Okay.
Young's Park.
Okay, listen.
Now it's infested there.
listen, rats are gonna move, they're gonna find places, they're gonna relocate, okay? They're not there because of the farmer's market. We've been there almost every day after the farmer's markets to make sure they've been clean.
Last week is
I
the week they
understand,
cleaned up.
I understand. There is a spot down on the railroad tracks that we have found behind DPW, and we are working with that right now, okay? Who has another question?
Hold on.
You had a question.
Ma'am, you're up next.
There's a receptacle that's over.
Please stop. Ma'am, I pointed to her. She's up next.
ISD? Am I able to call ISD?
No, ma'am, we're gonna take the questions as we call them.
No, okay,
Nothing really.
Ma'am, you're up next.
okay.
This has been going on
Go ahead.
for at least
Who had the question?
2016. And this is it?
Ma,
How many years?
go ahead. What was your question?
Right now, it's straight from the Immaculate Yard
Yes,
and Wood Street, East Boston.
yes.
I mean, it's wonderful that everybody in the neighborhoods are here and we're learning. But what's going on with uptown with the restaurants and their dumpsters that are overflowing? Do they know they're supposed to close it up and shut it?
So with all of the dumpsters, there is an ordinance. We do enforce it. If we get a call, we do go out. If they've already had complaints, they will be fined.
So they,
Yes.
I don't see anybody from any of the restaurants up here
Yep.
concerned that their rats are
Yep,
visiting us.
yep.
I just wanted to know that.
That's great. If I put a little bit more info about that, I guess I would say, is as restaurants have to permit when for a lot of things, but the dumpster is part of that. Part of what restaurants have to do is submit essentially a rodent control plan as part of the licensing process. Then the matter, of course, do they follow it, which is your point. But you're absolutely correct that we do have leverage to look into that for sure. And I will say that this is small comfort, believe me, but Melrose doesn't have a heck of a lot of restaurants compared to a lot of other communities, and that's one of the reasons why we want to hear from some of it's like Wakefield has more and a little bit more spread out. Malden has a bunch. Hoping we can learn a little bit more from that to make sure that we're doing everything we can.
Yep.
Sir.
My name is Barney Robish, and I live on Baxter Street. I moved to Melrose 47 years ago. I love the place.
Thank you.
We all love the place. Yes. It was voted one of the nicest places to live in the United States of America.
That's right.
That is
But
true.
until City Hall, now Mayor Broder, the aldermen, special services, permitting services, et cetera, get serious about this and be a lot more proactive than what I see in the paper or I hear around town. This problem is going to get exasperated even more. I don't need to be a snide and a trouble.
You're not being snide at all.
You got to get going a lot faster than they are going. And it's a little more than just getting rubbish cans or something like that. There needs to be a lot more. There needs to be downtown. You walk down and you go behind the restaurants and stuff. And I'm not going to say they're overflowing, but they've got more in them than they should.
That's right.
Has anybody ever been fined? A real
Yes.
monetary fine?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Like how much?
They're $100 every time I go out and they're open.
$100 fines that we have.
I'm not sure. I don't have a count.
Well, I know.
I
Is
apologize.
it like 2 or is it 3,000?
$3,000?
Yeah, fine.
No.
If it's
5 martinis.
It's
Because if it's only
It's a
two,
$100 fine.
I pay you $100 right now.
Right, it's a $100 fine. Yeah, but usually, so after they get a fine, they have to do things, otherwise they lose their permit. They can lose their dumpster permit. There's also an inspection that is involved in the dumpsters as well. The dumpsters have to be in good condition. So we also have to go back on the dumpster companies as well. We won't allow the dumpster companies to come into the town if their dumpsters are not properly done. So again, we're going over every single one of these processes, starting with restaurants, starting with, trash barrels, starting with ordinances, and trying to city properties, and then helping, again, private properties so that we can move forward.
And your point is well taken about the fines.
Very much so, yes.
Your point is well taken about the fines. I don't know when those fines were last updated, but when it gets to the point where it's cheaper to violate than to follow the rules, that's when we have a problem. That's part of what we need to be
That
thinking
city
about.
hall, in my opinion, gets a lot more proactive
Yes.
in doing all these things. It's not gonna be the nicest place to live in the United States of America.
That's right.
And if everybody in Massachusetts finds out that Melrose and the community has a rat problem, guess what? The place is gonna sell it for $1 million now, and we know I'm worth $1 million.
It works whatever someone will pay for.
Local rides of $5 million,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, because people will not want to move here.
Right.
So the message, in my estimation, is get a lot more proactive than is being done, rather than just the young lady. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Coral.
You said there's going to be like 6 more meetings like this.
Not here. We're doing every single community. So Malden, Medford, Stoneham, Wakefield, so that we can all be on the same page going forward.
Well, it needs to be done sooner than later.
Can there
Sure,
be an
welcome.
article?
Wait, we're gonna go with folks
Go ahead.
raising their hands for the first time. Can you speak a little bit louder, please? Go a little bit louder, please.
Speak a little louder, please.
We have a 4 family on Pheasant Street, and they ripped up the road in front of our building, like at least 6 times. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. But why don't they come down and do some pest control? When they do that, they're ripping up the road, they're going crazy down there. You can't get down Pheasant Street. And my husband had a tenant about maybe a month or so ago that called up and said, "There's a rat in my bathroom." So what happened is it came down through the ceiling, through the flop ceiling, fell like the bathtub, still swimming around. Okay, my husband had to go down, take it out of the bath. It's disgusting to live like this. He called Board of Health said, he came down from the neighborhood. There's people with chickens, they're worried about the bird feeders. What about all these chickens?
Yeah, the chicken coop.
Chickens are kind of a new thing, but I agree.
It's right behind the house. So, and it's gross. I mean, we're living, you see him running, I came down here the other day, there's a set of lights, and there's a rat running right up the front of the building. It's disgusting, but I think they have to do something. It's called pest control. We had to have somebody come out because by then we were going crazy. We paid $625. And I'm not even sure we even had. My husband went and bought barrels. We bought them with covers. The next day, there were holes in the barrels. So, I mean, they're obviously out there, but I think they worry about like all the bird feeders and this and that. It's dirty. They're ripping up roads. They took down my Marty's furniture. They ripped all that out. They ripped up all the roads going up there. They ripped them up by Howard Street. It's crazy. Get pest control. Do something. Because they're obviously coming from somewhere. We didn't, 28 years, we didn't even see so much of the mouse. All of a sudden, this past year, it's been unbearable. I mean, something's got to be done.
Sir, I don't think we've spoken.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Why are they allowing so much apartments, condos, storefronts going up? You got buildings that are vacant, like Caruso's over here. That's the one I think is probably loaded with rats, because it had food in it. Why didn't the Board of Health or the building department go over there and say, hey, fix this place or tear it down? Sure. I mean, there's too much development going on here too. That's one of the reasons.
Well, development doesn't lead to rents. It just doesn't. I can't really say much more about that. With Caruso's, it's private property. They do have to maintain that basic level of sanitation. There was a problem with that particular property because there was an ownership problem for 10 years. And there is new ownership. We've been in discussions with them about at least cleaning it up. But it is very, very challenging with some private property where as long as they are following code, the fact that it looks really crappy and is a blight, at a minimum, a visual blight on the downtown can be a problem. Believe me, I would have loved to have that developed 10 years ago, way before I had this job. We can't force people to develop, and sometimes we can't restrict non-development.
Did you have a question?
I have one. Okay.
I got a question. We're talking about sealing up trash barrels and all that. And what happens when that neighborhood does it and they move to the next neighborhood? So my question to you is, should you have the neighbors identify boroughs and all that, and then have that guy come in with the carbon monoxide, and you guys get him for a week?
Right.
And they identify the boroughs, they kill the rats, and maybe bring the population down to a level that's manageable. Because I think what's happening here, you fix this neighborhood, they move on to the next neighborhood. What good is that? Because then now you're going to have another group of people in here in another 2 years. So I think you need to make an investment, bring someone in, identify the problem areas, and go after it.
Well, I think we can do that as part of an overall strategy, but if we just do that, we'll always do that. And that's what we're trying to figure out, is that lowering the global population, is just those services won't get it done. That's what the experts keep telling us.
Well, I have several properties in, I bait them all, and I have extermination services in there, and it's brought them down a little, but it still keeps going. And I have a property adjacent to Wooden Fire over there. And I just went by the dumpster. He's got the thing open and it's overflowing, and I look inside the dumpster and there's a bag chewed up. So I mean,
And that's kind
it's going to continue to
That's kind of my point. Like, we could do the piece with the CO as long as we want, and if we have the dumpster problem, all that work is going to be for naught. So you're absolutely right about the need for a comprehensive.
I'm frustrated because
Understood.
thousands of dollars of best services, and we're just moving it around. Let's take care of it. Let's go after it.
And you folks should understand, it is a constant management problem. It's not something that you do it and it's done, right? It's a chronic problem that you need to keep working at. That's to your point. Ma'am?
I was curious, there's like, in this day and age, there should be a way technologically, I've seen you, Mayor, increase your use of technology and communication with us, but like, how can we use technology to report, also increase transparency, so that, to the point, when you've got all these red dots on a map, they're actually geo-mapped? Like, why are we doing this with an old-fashioned map, when we could be doing this real time? I see a rat, I saw it in this place, or a picture snapped in Somerville. You would snap a picture of a dumpster, date and time stamped, it goes into the app, and they would find the
We actually have that here, and folks aren't terrific about using it.
So,
Well, again,
I'm going
we
to
tell-
explain that to you. So if you send me a picture and it's time-stamped, it will never hold up in court. So I do recommend you send me a picture, and I do recommend you call and give a complaint. But we have to go out and actually physically see it ourselves, okay? Because if he says, well, I'm not paying that ticket, I want to go to court, the court will say, where did this picture come from? And I'll say, a resident sent it to me, and they'll say it's dismissed, okay? So, yep. Right. Absolutely. I get pictures all the time from people who say, hey, this dumpster's overflowing. And most of the time when I call, they'll say, hey, we called this morning, they're coming out. Sometimes I've had to give tickets. Sometimes I've had to go out 2 or 3 times. Sometimes I've even called the dumpster company and said, if you don't get out here and empty it today, you got to remove the dumpster. But it is having you, I cannot be at every trash receptacle in the town every day, neither can the other health inspector. So yes, I encourage you to shoot me an email with the picture that says, this is, I'm just going to say Caruso's because they're not open. Caruso's today, their dumpster is wide open and it's overflowing.
Let me jump.
Yeah, well, that's something that the communications person for the new grant can do. We did hire a communications person, and that could be something we can look into as well.
Let me
Okay?
jump in for a second. So we actually have that. It's mostly a DPW tool for things, for any number of potential complaints around trees, potholes, someone misses a trash collection. So I may have misspoken a little bit because I don't know if there's a feature in that app to report. I assume it would be very easy to add. What we used to have is something called See-Click Fix. We have moved away from that. We have tried to publicize it. It sounds like we need to do a little bit more in that respect. There are some folks who just don't like to use electronics, but it's tremendously helpful, maybe not from a prosecution perspective, but from a data aggregation and knowing where to put resources. It's a huge help. Thank you for that suggestion. We're going way in the back to Dave, and then we'll work our way forward.
I had a restaurant, and as soon as I realized I had it, I went down to Home Depot and bought 2 of these. $1.98 apiece. I pressed a piece of butter, put it on there, put it where I knew the rats would be likely to go, which is the trash can, which they did all on the bottom of the rats. And I wiped out the whole colony for $4. And it's done. 13 rats.
Thanks for this.
There's one more behind you. We're coming forward.
That's encouraging.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Man with the black mask? Well, everyone's got a black mask.
Me?
No.
So I second the wooden fire dumpster. I saw it because I'm on the rat idea. It was open, overflowing, and the biggest seagull I ever seen was picking through the trash. So if he sees it and I see it, it's a problem.
Well, I'll take this as a formal complaint, and we will go and check it out.
So that seagull is taking the trash somewhere else for the rat to eat when he drops it.
Yep.
So then my other thing is, I do real estate. Cambridge and some of them have trash police. And they have an ordinance, if your trash is not closed, they have people going around the neighborhoods who take pictures with a timestamp and send a ticket.
They work for the town.
And they have to pay the fine.
Yeah, if you work for the town, you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somebody should be going around taking pictures of the trash. We're behind this, really behind. Medford is baiting their sewers. They are already on this. Other people are on it. We're just starting the meeting. You said it's been 6 years. We are behind. We are behind. All we need is trash buckets that are closed. Everybody needs a trash bucket that's closed. Period. We can do this. We don't have to give them a certain trash bucket. Malden already got trash buckets for people. They got trash recycling buckets. They're already out. The blue bags are in the buckets.
Right.
We are behind. We are Melrose. Why are we so behind? We've been using blinders. My new neighbor next door thought the rats were a thing.
They were
Like
what?
I said, 17 years I never saw a rat. Until they crossed the street to my house. I watched them cross the street. And they landed in my yard. I killed all the rats that were in my yard. But now the neighbor has 2 properties away. And she's feeding them.
Again, please call the office and let me know where that is so that we can stop that for you, okay? But can I see it from her yard, from your yard? Okay. Okay. Can I see it from your yard?
We can work.
Okay, so let's talk tomorrow, okay?
Ma'am?
Yes, okay, just one thing, actually, it's a couple of things. All right, I've been holding on my hand so long, I
Yes,
forgot what I had to say.
all
Okay, so, I live on Oakland Street, on the corner of Childs and West Emerson. On the corner, there's the chicken coop out back, okay? My daughter called the health department about the chicken coop because we had pest control in my yard. I've been in my house a long time, I don't even want to tell you how many years. Never saw a rat. We had 4 of them in my yard. We have a bird feeder, so we immediately took them in, we swept up everything. We told the pest control about the chicken coop. So my daughter, so my daughter called City Hall and the health department, and they said, well, they have to have a permit for that. Why are we giving permits for chicken coops? The pest control company that came to my house said that is a rat cafe. They can get in there. They eat the chicken's poop and they eat the chicken feed. I mean, we're not in the middle of the woods here. We're having chickens in our yard. So, I mean, can't Melrose stop the permits for chicken coops?
I don't know what
And the other thing is, can we put it in the newspaper? We had a meeting tonight. Will everybody please take down their bird feeders for a while? Until this rat, this rodent control situation, until this gets controlled. Because a lot of people still are with bird feeders because they don't know.
Sure, we have not had rats, but I've taken mine down for just that
So
reason.
there's 2 things, the bird feeders and the chicken coops.
So the
Can we
chi-
not give out permits anymore? And
So-
tell people they have to cease and desist with the chicken coops?
The chicken coop thing is a little bit weird. Here's what I mean by that. I think those regulations, I assume, come from a time when we had farms and things like that. And for years, to your point, no one would even think about within the city having a chicken coop, and that seems to have come back into vogue. So I think what we probably need to do is, we apparently have that power, but we need to check the reg to make sure it's direct, like the reason is for that, because typically when there's a regulation that says you can't have this unless X, Y, and Z, and if it's back from farming days, it might not make sense with the problem we're trying to address right now. Back in the day, it might have been a salmonella interest, and they talked about separation of chickens, where now we got a bigger problem, or a different problem.
Can we go and tell them that you can't have the chicken coop anymore? Or are they gonna sue the city because they want goddamn fresh eggs every morning?
We will find out. We will find out, because it's a fair question.
I know, a city ordinance, you can't have it. We are not, it's a very crowded city in Melrose, it really is, and it's a beautiful town. Why do they have to have a chicken coop? And the yard is so small too, and it's right on the corner. Okay.
No, it has become a thing, and there might be, if it's someone who lives, I'm just making this up right now, someone at the very end of Porter Street that has an acre of land, maybe that's a different situation than someone, to your point, right in a densely populated part of the city where that won't fly.
If you drive up Child Street, you can see it. And
Oh, no, I know, I'm familiar with a couple of
it's
chicken
a rat
coops on very
cafe.
small
That's what the
properties.
pest service told us, a rat cafe.
Yep,
Okay?
for sure. Maria?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I stand?
Of course you can. Or sit, whatever you'd like to do.
On June 23rd, I live on Winter Street Extension. Winter Street Extension and Dell Ave was inspected. And we were told, make sure there's no water, make sure there's no food, clean up your dog waste, and they will move to another neighborhood. We were told that. And that is not a solution. And that's why we're here today, because my neighborhood did not find that okay. We pay a lot of taxes.
I understand.
I'm still waiting for that report. You told us you were gonna mail us the inspection report. I've asked for it, I've emailed for it, I went down to City Hall. We don't have that.
So I cannot go onto people's property, okay, without their permission. You are the second neighborhood that I said I would come to your neighborhood and do a walkthrough, okay? We did a walkthrough and I pointed out things to you. If I do an inspection report, I have to cite that person and send out an ordinance. The report that I did was to let everybody know where there was problems. We found some problems, and again, we will work out those problems. The city already cleaned their area.
After 7 weeks.
They already cleaned their area.
7 weeks.
And then you have another spot that we have to look at, and so hopefully those residents are here tonight so that we can discuss
You did not
that spot.
contact them. I just spoke to the daughter of the.
I hand-delivered a flyer to every single resident in that 3-block radius on Thursday.
Some neighbors?
Yes, the 3-block
Did not
radius.
come because of health concerns.
Okay,
Tell
well,
me,
they can call me.
you were there that day.
They can
Did
call
they
me.
not say if we clean our area, they will move on to another neighborhood? And we said that is not acceptable. Were we not told that we would get a copy of the report? And now they are refusing a copy of that report, which is public record.
I did, okay.
But we
Well,
don't
we
find
can-
that acceptable.
Well, we can discuss
And
it
we are
afterwards.
doing
I
all
have
that. We
everything
are
for
asking
you.
you to help also.
Well, I will do that, and like I said, we will discuss it. Unfortunately, I was expecting the neighbors to be here that run along that stream in the
One family
backyards.
cannot because of COVID, other people cannot because of health concerns, and I
Okay,
don't
so
know about the rest.
we'll call them. So we'll call
Yes,
them.
they will see it here.
But
Yeah.
where are the,
But
so
Joe,
just
yes,
you two are
their
here.
solution was, clean your area, it will go on to another neighborhood. We're already in COVID pandemic. Do we need another pandemic from all the diseases they carry? And by the way, I have video within 5 days, last Wednesday and last night, I have rats now coming up to my door. I warned them. When it gets cold, they are gonna look for entry in our houses. My house is sealed. I have bait boxes that my exterminator told me I'm throwing away money because it's the whole neighborhood. But everybody here, yourself and please tell your neighbors, check your houses. They are already trying to enter. If no one believes me, contact me. I will show you the videos.
What about the bird feeders? Can we tell people not to have bird feeders in the yard? Put it in
What
the
am-
newspaper. Please, don't have bird feeders, okay?
It's common sense.
I know, but it has
Some
to be
people
put
are
in
in
the
denial,
newspaper.
absolutely. We don't have bird feeders. But we're not passing this on to another neighborhood, and that's how this all started and came here tonight.
And meetings
Because
like
we
this
are
should
not
have been put
passing
in the
on this
paper.
problem.
I know.
Enough is enough.
Ladies, thank you very much. Who, I believe, ma'am?
I just wanted to say I live very close to the areas that people are describing. In fact, in some cases, I'm like right across the street from people who have spoken tonight. I was totally unaware that there was a problem. I don't see rats. I don't have a problem in my own home. But it was fortunately another neighbor let me know about this evening. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
It should have been in the newspaper.
I think
Yeah.
it was in the newspaper, in fairness, I believe it was in the newspaper
Diane,
this last Friday. The most recent.
Yep.
But my comment relates actually to communicating better from the city. Because I don't expect my neighbors to have to go door to door. I saw a picture of a flyer that apparently some people got. We didn't get it.
The reason we sent it out like we did, well, I should say like I did, was I was going to inform the direct neighborhoods that I was working with at the time. So I needed to make sure that the people on Winter Street Exchange and the people on the other side street were here this evening, so I hand-delivered those. Brazil Street, there's some issues there. I had my inspector hand-deliver those. There was, there was another address that was hand-delivered. So you may have been across the street, but you weren't in this one little circle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You may have been, like, so I did one side of East Foster, but I didn't do the other side because I did the abutters to the Winter Exchange.
And I'm glad you saw it in the newspaper, because that,
Reported an issue because I've never.
I'm glad you saw it in the newspaper, because that makes me feel a little bit better that
In terms of
we are using all our,
I think
all
that,
our efforts.
you know, one part of the solution is to look at how is this information that the problem even exists being communicated. Maybe that needs to be up. Education is key, so I appreciate that I got to see the information from the control person saying, here's what you can do. And I've identified at least one thing that I, as a homeowner, can do and will do to make sure that I'm not contributing to the problem. But if I hadn't been told by another neighbor, like, you know, just kind of hearsay, oh, by the way, did you know? I would never have been here. So, and then I would continue to feed birds that I've been feeding for 30 years that I've been living here in Melrose. And I'm going to be very sorry to not do it, but I will stop feeding the birds for at least.
Same here. No, that is exactly where I'm at.
We have to let people know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
I'm just gonna feed off of what you're saying, which is I think like, I don't think anyone, maybe some people are saying you're not doing enough and directing it to, but I think like we all like have good intent here, right? Like you want to communicate with us, that is your job, that's how you got your job, like I would think. And I see emails from you, like today, about mattress recycling, but I didn't see an email saying that there's a rat issue and we're having this meeting, we want everybody involved, we want as big of a turnout as possible so we can discuss this as a community. I haven't heard how we're gonna take the education we got and put a flyer together and send it to everyone. Like we got when 128, the heating company was doing inspections of our sewer line. Like I haven't heard solutions that could help increase transparency and build to your point, find the people who say, well, it's not a problem in my yard, or it's not a problem in my neighborhood, but it really is. They're just not seeing it, or it hasn't become an issue yet, because it hasn't moved to our neighborhood. And so I think like, and the more we can just say this is not, like, it's meant to be, if you could communicate, this is a major problem and we need everybody's support if we're gonna do what we need over the next 6 months to reduce the population to be manageable. Like, here's what we're asking everyone to do. Sign up to do it. And I bet you there's people in this room that would probably help communicate that to our neighborhood.
For sure.
I would host a gathering in my neighborhood and educate people.
No, it's a great point.
One other quick thing that just an observation in my neighborhood that this has kind of been bugging my husband and me for years is right now we don't have standardized trash receptacles, and that maybe is something that comes down the road. But so right now everybody's taking their trash in plastic bags and putting it out on the sidewalk. One of the properties that I believe is involved in this problem, they put their trash out in their plastic bags at night, the night before. They don't do it in the morning. We never put our trash out until the morning. So at least, I mean, that is not to say that rats couldn't get in there, but they're not as active during the middle of the day. But if they can be unobstructed all night, they're going to chew holes in the trash bags. And we have problems on windy days with trash blowing all over the neighborhood. So those are things that I think should be part of the problem.
Makes a lot of sense. Agreed.
What about having the city, purchase trash barrels for the residents?
It's a couple $1 million, but we could do it. That's probably too high. Someone just did that, and wasn't it around $1 million? What's that?
We pay $200 a year for trash removal.
Yes.
We pay property tax. Where's that $200 go?
To throw away the trash.
Well, then where does that tax money go?
The trash fee goes to throw away the trash. It's an ever-growing cost. It's a lot more expensive to throw it away, and
We gotta go back to Millway where Public Works in Melrose picks up the trash themselves instead of hiring MJR or whatever.
JR, and that would be a lot more expensive. We could certainly go back to that, but it would be more expensive.
Other cities and towns, like I said, in Everett, we don't pay any trash removal. Same company delivers and picks up the trash.
Aren't you from Melrose?
Excuse me?
Aren't you from Melrose?
I own 2 properties.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I'm here, because I own the house right next to Maria. And in Everett, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but I mean, it doesn't seem to sink into the city here. Everett, they gave them trash barrels. They gave them recycle barrels with lids. They go around every day and they inspect them when they're out in the street. If they're open even an inch or 2, they give them a ticket.
Yeah, there's a lot of different...
Paper trash removal there. How can they do it and we can't do it? They would pay $200 a year on top of it.
There's definitely a lot of different ways that communities do it, like Winchester doesn't do any trash collection at all. I'd be interested to know how that probably impacts their rat problem in a good way because no one's ever putting trash out. They haul it to a dump. Sir, well, coming back to you.
What happens when you do that program where you have the lids on them, and you do trash and you do recycle?
Yep.
If you look at communities, you see the recycle goes up.
Right.
And that almost pays for itself.
Well, that's not true anymore because the recycling market's collapsed, but your point is well taken.
So I think in a lot of communities, and I know trash is expensive right now, I know that, but you gotta look at all the factors here. And I think if you can increase your recycle, you're decreasing your trash, you'll win in there. And then you win in with this pest problem too. So I mean, I think it's something you have to consider significantly.
No, you're absolutely right. As we come into a new trash contract in probably about 18 months, you know, that's part of the negotiation, I suspect, is, you know, where do we want to get and how do we get there? You know, there might be, some of their trucks are automated, which would require a specific type of barrel, but that might work very well for us. So we're happy to, you know, that's all goes into the mix. Ma'am in back. Nope.
Thank you. So I just want to say, I think this is a great first step, having this meeting. My problem lies in the fact of the amount of money that I have spent to get rats off of my property. My communication started with Coral and Ruth Clay in 2016. The gentleman that just gave his time was fantastic. He dedicated several slides to how they do it in a safe way, an environmentally, proper way. Why haven't we hired them to use these techniques? Like, I don't understand. The frustration lies in the amount of time that has gone by and made this population explode. This could have been nipped in the bud. This could be a smaller problem. And my frustration lies in the fact that that's why I asked, what technique are you using here in Melrose? And the answer is no technique.
And that, I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing, but historically, no community has done that with a few exceptions. There are certainly, I know that Revere has some kind of a program that involves them putting some public dollars into actual, pest control. Literally hiring a pro to come out. Medford does not, but I appreciate the.
There's an article, I can pull it up.
Well, I will certainly take a look, but they sent me their new trash ordinance just a few days ago and their schedule of fees, and it did not say anything about a public service, but I will certainly talk to the mayor again. I'd be happy to. Revere is the community I just described. If you are done.
It's just frustrating.
Sure.
I haven't barbecued in 4 years in my backyard. And my family's been there for 70 plus years. We all work for the city, so it's frustrating to not get anywhere with the health department. Coral, you have come to my house, you know that Cedar Park is a mud spot.
I haven't seen it recently, so like I said, please call me and we will, if it's your neighborhood too, it's just not on, it hasn't been on the radar in the past year, and I apologize for that. I don't know if it kind of, I didn't, I don't know what that reason was, but like I said, call me, either me, myself, Ivan, somebody will get back in with you and see what's going on in the neighborhood, okay?
And Maria, you have a question? Oh, let me take the person's first.
So we've talked a lot about this. We have so many suggestions. I mean, I'm taking notes. I'm assuming you guys are, somebody's taking notes.
We have this.
So I think the question is, what is the plan? Like, what is the next step? So how can you guys walk us through maybe like a particular date or, something that everyone here who participated tonight can look forward to as a resolution, not a resolution, but a plan. I think we just need a plan. We need a plan.
I think we could, probably not tonight. Can we give you that bit by bit? Because we certainly want to digest this information. And I really love the idea of trying to data track this so we understand where it's best to concentrate. You know, everyone's street is the street with the most speeding, but there are some streets that are worse than others, so if we need to prioritize, we will. But the very fair point, and I'm going to, regrettably, for her sake, ask Coral to lead on that, because she is the one intimately connected with the bigger effort, the bigger regional effort, because there's, quite frankly, particularly with Medford, a little bit of stealing to be done in terms of stuff that we can do, I think, much more quickly than, you know, like an ordinance change or reg change. It takes a little bit of time. But some of the public education stuff, some of that info, to your point, some of the things that we can publicize, what I'll call the low-hanging fruit, we can do a much better job much quicker than we've been doing.
So I think a lot of residents have familiarity. I know somebody spoke to us in Somerville. I lived in Boston for 15 years. 6 of that was in the North End. I fought the war of rats for 6 years. I know a lot about it. I think a lot of our residents who have been dealing with this for a number of years know a lot about it. So maybe including or having some way to track some of these suggestions or feedback, or just including the residents in order to help resolve the issue would be really beneficial. We had a dedicated line, it was 311, I don't know if we have that here in Melrose.
We don't.
had a dedicated unit of the city that dealt with the rats. We had people coming out giving trash $25 every trash violation, and it was non-stop. My building got trash violations all the time. They had no idea they were violating the trash regulations.
If you don't mind me asking, were you there during Big Dig or some of the follow-on to the Big Dig? Because that got tremendous attention, because it stirred up rats, and it generated some solutions.
North Station construction was,
Oh God, between the garden and the new...
in the Regina Courtyard, if you look through the cracks in the streets, you see hundreds of them running around in the infrastructure. So, I guess part of the plan would be, how are we cleaning the sewers? How are we cleaning the gutters? What is this? I think what I'm hearing from the residents is that they want help, and what they want to know what the city is doing to help them.
For sure. No, it's a great suggestion. It's a great suggestion. Maria, you had another thing? Composting?
Composting. I saw on the Melrose pages at the farmer's market a few weeks ago, they were going to have a table, zero waste Melrose composting.
Yes.
Isn't there a danger of attracting even more? If
No.
it's done properly?
If it's not done properly, yes. If it is done properly, no.
Who don't do it properly. I know in the Lincoln School area, there was a family who was just throwing the food in a pile, not even in any container.
You see, that's not composting. That's pollution. That's, right.
Please, are you going to overlook this? Because that's going to be another fiasco.
I think fines
If
are going
people
to
start
be
doing it.
fines. I think $25, garbage fines, people are going to start to recognize that there's a problem.
And if there are fines, then there is the money to help fight the rat situation.
Well, we want people to not do the act. We're not looking to make money off this, to be sure.
People will learn quick, and it would help pay for rat extermination.
But one of the tricks to composting, one of the reasons why composting is important is because modern solid waste disposal regs require it, more or less, because for any number of reasons, both for environmental and economic reasons, where if people don't compost, we're going to get hit on our tipping fees. There's actually some good dollars and cents taxpayer reasons to do it, but to your point, it has to be done right.
My parents were from Italy. I've been in my house since 1970. I'd be playing in the backyard. There'd be eggshells where I'm playing, because that's just how my mother did it. We never had rats. Someone does that now, we're in trouble.
Right.
So if people are composting, I hope the city is going to have guidelines, suggestions, or something for the people who do compost. I would love to compost, but I'm not taking a chance. Because I cannot even let my dogs out at night to go to the bathroom.
And what people think,
I can't even open my door at night because they're at my door.
and people, composting when it started was just leaves, right? And now it's become a much more sophisticated thing, and the more challenging piece is the food waste, because it's like a smorgasbord for rats, raccoons, chipmunks, everything else under the sun, to be sure. Ma'am?
Thank you for listening and compiling and providing us with the information about the sanitation. It's really something we can all do. I live right between Dell and Lebanon and Upland by the Winter Street Extension. We have some neighbors who don't speak English. I speak 4 languages, but I cannot communicate with them in the department of sanitation. So I'd love it if the city could compile all of this wonderful information we've gathered tonight, especially that Mr. Yankee Pest Control provided, and put it in multiple languages.
That's what we're working on.
Hard copies.
We're working on that a lot.
It will be in multiple languages. It will. That's the whole purpose of the community. Yep.
No, and that's something we're behind on, to be sure.
They don't mow their lawn and they put their scraps in the yard and can't tell them why they're doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No, thank you. It's a great suggestion. Anything else before you all go home? Sir, one more.
Okay, we go here.
What's that?
We keep the trash in the barrel. What's the city road?
I don't understand the question.
Well, I mean, we're talking about dumpsters, we're talking about all this construction going on. We do lot high. What's the city gonna do? Is the city gonna do anything?
We've talked about a lot of possible things. So am I going to give you a list right now? I'm not. No. Certainly going to talk to Carlo Di Maria in Everett to see how he makes it work. So I was certainly, given the information you've shared with me about Everett, happy to talk to Mayor Di Maria about how they've pulled that off. That sounds like a great opportunity.
Is it reasonable to expect maybe to hear back from you somehow in the next 30 days?
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
Very fair.
Great question in terms of efficiency of communication. I certainly welcome your input. I would say us posting something on the website and then blasting that out through social media. Again, the newspaper is a little bit sluggish because they're weeklies with, a lot of times we will want to send information that's old by the time it hits. It's like for COVID, the local newspapers are not a great way to communicate stuff because typically the information changes between the time we give it to them and the time folks read about it in the paper. We will certainly do our best, the multiple forms of communication, certainly do our best with the newspapers. Sure, I think that's reasonable. Let's say September 30th because end of month is always a good place to plant the flag. That might not be a bad way to spend that time that you have free. We'd love to have you, that's for sure.
That is in the near future. Like I said, the coordinator that we just hired and the communications person that we just hired for these 6 communities, the communications person, that is their job. Their job is to find out how to reach everybody in the community, whether you speak 3 different languages, we don't know what language you speak, whether you're hearing impaired, whether you're disabled, how are we going to reach everybody? What source of media are we going to use to get to all those people, whether we have to go into churches, synagogues, whether we have to go, send out blast emails, do a reverse 911 call. So, and again, that's September 7th that they're going to all start meeting and getting together. So definitely by September 30th, we should have some kind of plan in place. And again, if, having members of the community's feedback would be huge, we would definitely put that out there, whether it be a polling system or something like that, where the communications person can gather all that information. Okay?
The address is used for tax. Everybody gets a tax information. You use that area.
That's true, that is a way, but we want to also look at all the people that have apartment buildings that don't have tax bills, or renters, the people that are in housing, all that as well.
But we'll certainly do our best to make it as broad as possible. Thank you. Well, again, thank you all for coming. We're both easy to find. She's a little bit easier to find than me. But please share your suggestions, share your frustrations, and I think we can get to a much better place. And I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been a long meeting. We tried to give you some good information, but it's most important to hear what's on your mind and figure out how we can do this better together. So I really appreciate you all sticking it up. Thanks.